Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and inspire joy. Be empowered to balance your mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. If Joy, and I'm here to help you transform life's challenges into opportunities for joy. Let's begin the journey together. Hello, everyone. We are in episode 149, ADHD or burnout. You're not distracted, you're overloaded. And I have a special guest today, Breanna Perry. She's an LCSW and owner of Rooted Swan Wellness. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. I think you reached out to me to let me know about your practice. And I was like, oh my God, what you do sounds exactly like what we talk about or what I talk about on this podcast. So I had to have you. Tell us about your practice.
Yes, so I support primarily Black women through anxiety, trauma, ADHD, stress, and burnout. Of course, all other diagnoses are welcome, but those are my primary focuses. My goal is just to help women, especially women of color, to be able to thrive in their lives. And a lot of times there are just barriers that they can overcome, such as trauma, such as ADHD, and provide psychoeducation to be able to be better informed about their mental health in a way that maybe they weren't raised to understand. As we know, therapy is still very new in our community. So insight, information, of course, therapeutic intervention is my goal. So
Heck yeah. Now, is it just you as a solo practice or you have other therapists?
it is just me right now.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, my goal is to expand and invite therapists to join, obviously, but right now it's just me.
Yeah, same here. Mine's a solo practice. I keep thinking I'm going to add therapists or add a nurse practitioner, but I'm not even at the point where I'm full. Like I'm full because I want to spend time doing other things, but I'm not like actually full to be able to hire somebody.
Yeah, yeah, and you know that takes time, and when it's time, I'll know. Because I do also work for my psychiatry practice, focusing on ADHD as well. So my definition of full is when I can no longer balance both.
There it is. See that? Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like 40-hour work week. It's just like, I don't want to see nobody else.
It'll just be when I need support, and that's when I'll expand.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be referring to your practice because I am at the point where I'm full as far as therapy patients. And, you know, it's a lot to have a therapy patient because it's an hour once a week or every other week. And I don't want to limit anybody. I'm like, I can only take someone that I can see a half hour from every month. And I don't want to do that for therapy, you know.
Yeah.
Do you take insurance?
Yes,
Ooh, which ones? All of them?
pretty
Or
much.
tell me the name.
Oh, so what? Cigna, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Carleon.
Oh, that's great.
I don't remember.
I
Most
get a lot of Blue Cross Blue Shield. I used to get a lot of Cigna. I only accept Aetna, but I get a lot of Blue Cross Blue Shield Anthem. So that'd be good. I'll think of you. In fact, I had somebody recently. Anyway, we can talk about that offline. But but awesome for those listening. If you're looking for a therapist and you wanted to come to my practice, I'm only accepting med management visits, and I do incorporate therapy, but no longer the 1 hour visits.
Oh no,
Um,
that's perfect because I will be referring my mid management clients to you. So that's
That part, it's mutual. We both accept Aetna. So there we go. Cool. Well, if we get into our topic for this evening, well, first of all, well, you talked about your practice. I usually have people introduce themselves in general. You're more than just the owner of Rooted Swan Wellness. Tell us more about yourself before we get into our topic.
Oh yeah, so I live in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I also do group facilitation as well for an IOP, intensive outpatient. And like I said earlier, I also do therapy for a psychiatry practice as well, focusing on the primary diagnosis of ADHD. I guess in my spare time.
Yes.
When I have it, I mean, besides the fact that I do work a lot, but of course I try to, catch up with friends, and my friends are also in mental health too. So we do a lot of bouncing ideas, traveling, things like that.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you mentioned the group facilitation. So, how many groups? Is it just only one, or how often are those?
So honestly, I do groups Monday through Thursday.
Mm.
I run two groups, a DBT group and a process group.
Okay.
And so these are for teenagers primarily.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Womp
intensive.
womp. I mean, that's good though. I have
Well,
teenagers, but I have a person in mind. I'm thinking about who needs group therapy.
I'm actually going to expand the practice into group coaching. So not necessarily
Nice.
therapy, but group coaching. I'm actually going to be starting a communication skills group in July. So like
Gotcha.
I have another friend, she's a psychiatrist. We'll be working together and doing community or communication skills.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we get into our topic, ADHD or burnout, because I see, like you, right? I love the Black female patient. I love that audience, but of course, the Black family, the Black male, Black, 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 you know. But when we talk about adult ADHD, we do have a lot of people now as adults. Oh, I have ADHD. Oh,
Hmm.
I'm so distracted. I can't focus. Oh, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I did a talk or a podcast episode about a year ago at this point about mommy brain or ADHD, because it's like, is it ADHD or is it just mommy brain? And then now it's just like, well, maybe you're not even a mom. Maybe it's like some burnout that's going on, right? So let's jump into that. I mean, how often are you seeing ADHD versus burnout, and you realize it really is burnout and not ADHD? Somebody's coming to you like, I got ADHD.
Okay, so typically when I see, well, I'll say this, there are some indications that kind of go off for me if it's ADHD or burnout. And
Mhm.
usually it's not just the situational stressor that sends off the signal that it might be ADHD. So I think that's the greatest differentiator to even acknowledge is the fact that ADHD is going to prevail beyond a situation that's causing you stress in the first place. So burnout is usually going to come from imbalance of roles and responsibilities in the household, overloaded at work, maybe with some unrealistic expectations and some deadlines, you just taking on too many things because you feel somehow obligated to do so. So that's a sometimes
Mhm. Oh,
cultural
that's me.
thing. We know us, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we'll do
Yeah.
that, right? And then a lack of boundaries. So usually you see
Yep.
burnout show up in those domains. And then as it relates to ADHD, there is a little bit of a different flavor. And so usually that's, permeating through childhood. So there are some other indications that show up in childhood, meaning maybe in school you struggled for
There it
different
is.
reasons,
Yeah.
right? Maybe there is some hyperactivity. Maybe there is some difficulty quieting your brain. Maybe there is some sleep issue before the stressor. So
Yeah. Yeah.
things are typically happening before you got into your situation. Now, I will
Mhm.
say there are sometimes people who don't recognize their ADHD until they go to college. You'll also
Yeah.
hear a
We
lot of
don't
that.
know.
Where
Mhm.
when I went off to college, that's when I started to struggle. And so usually that's one of those signals that I hear that feel more like
Mm.
ADHD rather than burnout. Burnout, you usually hear it when I have a
Mhm.
family. I took on this job and it's not what I thought it was going to be. And now I'm working all these late hours. And again, very situational. Usually
Mhm.
you hear the ADHD is more flavored, usually when it comes to school first.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the first indication that it might be ADHD is usually in school.
School and work. Oh my goodness, you said a lot. So, yes, what you're implying there is that ADHD is a chronic condition, and that when you say situational stressor, maybe there's something like more acute going on, but let's point out that burnout can be chronic too.
100%.
So, how can someone tell if it's ADHD, which is a chronic condition, but also chronic burnout? Because if you're in that situation for 3, 4, or 5 years and you just burnt out that whole time, how
Yes.
can we tell the difference?
So usually burnout can be remedied through rest, whereas
Mhm.
ADHD is not
Nope.
remedied through rest.
Mm-mm.
ADHD is remedied through treatment and sometimes, a lot of times, even medication, right? Um,
Yeah.
whereas burnout as soon as we make adjustments to, and this is where I usually kind of start to observe my clients to see which one it is, because when we start to make adjustments that allow for more rest,
Yeah.
we get to observe to see how you're feeling, what are
That's
some
good.
out. It actually just happened. I had a client. We went on FMLA for about a month. Oh, all of a sudden we feel so good. We've been working in this job for years, right?
Wow.
7+ years. You go on FMLA for a month, all of a sudden you feel so restful and you could actually return to work.
Yeah.
That is burnout.
And in that scenario, when they return to work, they're still fine because they did rest. Because a lot of times when we have ADHD and you remove that hard thing, that challenge, the school or the work, maybe things are better because you don't have anything that you need to focus on. But at the same time, the challenge, just what I just said, there's other things like bills you have to pay, parenting, the ADHD gets in the way, relationships, the ADHD gets in the way.
Yes.
So I do, it still stands what you just said about when you have rest, when the burnout seems to dissipate, as opposed to with ADHD, it's like, it's going to be there regardless.
Right. It's still pervasive in other areas
Mm,
of life,
hmm.
executive functioning. So usually I find with burnout, there's not the issue with executive functioning in the same way. So you
Yeah.
find I don't want to work at this job, but oh yeah, at home I can do my chores and show up for my kids and do all the things. Nothing is, impeding there. Whereas ADHD is the house is a mess. We can't do anything unless it's something we want to do, unless we're hyper focusing on our hobby, our thing that provides that dopamine, then yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
everything else is like, absolutely, it's hard for me to start. It's hard for me to get started. And it's hard
Yeah.
for me to maintain the momentum. And those are the other primary issues too.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, especially the mention of executive function, because if you think about it, it's not the lack of executive function that leads to burnout. In fact, it's too much of it that
Yes.
leads to you
Yes.
are so organized and you're taking on so much and your plate is so full and you're just doing it to the point where you get burned out.
Yes.
So the executive functioning is there. You're able to do it, but with ADHD, the executive functioning is not there.
Right. Right. And then there are times when they actually overlap, when there's ADHD and burnout. And then we have to kind of extrapolate these things to figure out what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, and you also mentioned when you got to college. So you're saying you were diagnosed with ADHD?
No, no, no. I was just saying that as an example. Usually, when
Ah,
clients say, "Yeah, when I got to college, things got really hard," that's usually when something is dinging, like, "Okay, this like might likely be ADHD."
I thought you were a fellow ADHD therapist. I have ADHD myself, but that's my story. Like, I didn't really have it in high school, but college it came out. I wasn't even diagnosed in medical school. I still didn't realize it.
So I'm undiagnosed. I have all the markers.
Well, you
However,
diagnosed yourself.
shh, don't tell anybody. No, well, the thing is this. So when I was actually in elementary school, it was recommended that I be
Mm.
tested. And then, stigma. My mom did not want me to get tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but there were definitely indicators. I was definitely hyperactive in school. Now, of course, I made all good
Ooh.
grades, but
Mhm.
no, from my teachers were always, she loves to talk a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was things like that, or there were things like I could just really entertain myself.
Gotcha.
I had some of those neurodivergent markers as a
Mhm,
child.
mhm. Yeah.
So, and also my mom feels like she might have had ADHD.
Gotcha. Now that people are talking about it, you're like, huh,
She started
in retrospect.
Exactly. So there is a high likelihood that I do, but I think because I was high functioning and I created my own systems, not even realizing that's what you do. You create systems to do
That's
things.
true.
So I've had my own systems for so long that
Yeah.
it's not
It
hard to
works.
tell. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
it works.
you also know that as you get older, the ADHD could evolve from hyperactivity to
Mhm.
inattentive. So
Mhm.
I feel like as I was able to regulate as I got older, again, it's not as obvious anymore. Now, executive
Yeah.
functioning, again, that's a system that I had to.
Right. And a lot of times, not only does the hyperactivity tend to dissipate, like if you once you turn 18 or become an adult, the ADHD can dissipate in and of itself, and you don't end up needing medication. Of course, there's some people that do end up needing medication, but then also, as you mentioned, you put in systems in place to be able to help you get more organized. And
Yeah.
not all ADHD needs a medication either.
Correct.
I'm not on a medication. I take fish oil. That really helps.
Yeah.
But putting certain systems in place, and that's why I always push therapy, behavior modification, any type of special accommodations that you can have, and
Yeah.
all of those can work for burnout as well. Like, what
Yeah.
systems do you need to put in place, especially systems that will incorporate rest? Also, just real quick, a lot of times ADHD goes unseen with girls. You mentioned you are the hyperactive. Usually, it's the boys and males are hyperactive, and the females are the daydreamers or the inattentive ones, and it just goes unseen. That's how I was a daydreamer.
That's okay. So, and that's exactly true. The girls are usually underdiagnosed because we are socialized to behave too in a certain way. So, the likelihood of us being rambunctious in a public setting is just lower than a little boy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They're
Yeah.
more externalizing and active and all over the place.
Correct. Because remember, mine was just talking. I wasn't getting out of my seat
Yeah.
or, I wasn't being disobedient per se. I
Hmm.
was just talking. I wanted to talk to my neighbors. This homework is boring, so I'm going to talk. you know,
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
that's
And
going to
people
show
with
up.
ADHD do that, but you can't do that without it as well.
Exactly. I also remember vividly, I could not do my homework until I went outside and played first.
Mm.
You know how your parents are like, okay, come home and do your homework and then you can go out.
Yeah.
I had to always go out and play first. Once I
Yeah.
was tired out, then I was like, okay, now I can do my homework.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because you've been all day at school and it's just like, oh, my brain. And so being able to kind of let loose and run around works
Yes.
for any child, especially a child with ADHD.
Hmm.
So the reason why someone who's burnt out will come to you is because obviously things are going on where they're so stressed and overwhelmed, things aren't working out, they're tired, they're fatigued. Why do so many high functioning women not realize they're burnt out until they feel like they're failing at everything?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it, at least for our community, is stigma related.
Mm,
Being labeled lazy or underperforming or being surveillanced. There's
hmm.
an expectation for excellence. There isn't a space for us to show up mediocre anywhere.
We don't know how. It just
Know
comes
how
from,
that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist for us.
yeah,
You're choosing to or not, right? And that again, there's creating that overlap that really is a struggle for someone with ADHD, right? That because if the space that you're occupying is not something you're passionate about, you're
yeah,
not going to be able to be excellent,
you
and that
can't.
really confuse someone who is not educated on how ADHD operates, because you'll think, what's wrong with me? Why are all of my counterparts able to perform and perform in a high functioning way, and
Hmm.
I'm over here struggling to do some of the most seemingly basic things?
Hmm.
So therefore differentiation is very necessary, because being able to know that it's actually not your burnout, it is actually ADHD, is helpful to kind of take that stigma off yourself and give yourself a bit of grace that you just need a different system than your counterpart. And a lot of us
Exactly.
don't recognize that. We're
Yeah.
trying to live up and measure up to standards by our parents, by our peers. And when we can't, it can be a struggle.
Mhm. For sure. And so when you see somebody, I imagine since you see people who may be going through burnout or ADHD, of course, the other things you mentioned earlier, what kind of evaluation do you do to tease it out?
So typically we do an intake evaluation that is comprehensive of their symptoms, their
Mhm.
frequency, and so we don't necessarily do an ADHD evaluation. At least
Oh,
I don't. Our
okay.
psychiatrists do an ADHD.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I do an intake evaluation typically, and once I hear the symptoms and the frequency in which you have them, and of course when they've started, it's pretty easy to assess that, yeah, you might be dealing with this, but I don't rule it out. And I also take a few sessions to kind of, really determine
For
this is what it looks
sure.
like.
That's important. People feel like, oh, they're just going to spend like 20 minutes with me and just throw a medication at me. I mean, if they're going to do that, you need to fire that
Oh,
doctor or therapist.
no,
No, no, no. And
what?
I'm fine. I don't ever feel pressure to start a medication on the first visit. If I need to take a few days, I will, because yeah, it might be ADHD, but like we're talking about, we need to rule out everything else, including burnout, trauma, depression, anxiety, any type of mood disorder or psychosis or bipolar, so we can't just go straight to that. But ADHD evaluation is fairly simple. I just send the Vanderbilt is what we call it, for people who aren't sure about it. But a Vanderbilt assessment is the ADHD assessment, and we need to diagnose it in two different settings. So that pervasive symptoms that you mentioned, it's in different settings, not just the one setting.
Mhm.
And so the parent usually fills it out and a teacher usually fills it out. If you're an adult, we do an adult ADHD screen, and just asking them questions about the different settings. If it's like only at home or only at school or only in one setting, it's kind of like, what else could it be, as opposed to ADHD?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, when I suggest clients to seek the psych consult for their ADHD
Mm-hmm,
assessment, I let them know medication is optional, right?
mm-hmm,
It's just a
mm-hmm.
conversation, and I let them arrive to their decision about medication. So I never push medication. I usually say it's worth having a conversation, because there are just some symptoms of ADHD that I feel medication is just better for, and so a lot of them
Yeah.
can be for when they deal with the ruminating thoughts and they can't,
Mm-hmm.
shut their brain off, or
Mm-hmm.
they have severe like insomnia, things like that. When it gets more chronic, that's usually where I lean heavily more towards medication, and
Mm-hmm.
always their option, but you may want to have a conversation about how it could help you.
For sure. And speaking of those ruminating thoughts, there's a lot of cycling back and forth between ADHD and anxiety, because when you can't focus or you're procrastinating and you're not doing those projects, you feel bad about yourself. Then you're worried about the thing that you didn't do and you procrastinated on. Now you're so anxious. And then it's like now you can't focus because you're anxious. And then there's also self blame. So when someone says, I just can't focus anymore, what compassionate reframe would you offer them instead of self blame?
Oh, yes. So that is usually when I introduce systems, that is usually when they are able to reframe the most, because they're able to say, oh, I don't have to do this thing in this traditional fashion.
There
I
we
have to do
go.
things in my way. And what does
Yeah.
my way look like?
Mhm.
And that's where they can have compassion for themselves, because they're now able to establish what their normal looks like, and not normal compared to what they've been taught or what they've been told. This is how you do it.
Yeah. And in case someone's like, what is systems? She's saying systems a lot. Tell us an example of what that might sound like. I know, but just in case.
This is true. Yes. So your systems are the way you go about getting things done, and the long and the short of it. So for example, that could be, so if you're struggling with executive functioning at home, let's just use doing the laundry, for example.
Hmm.
A system of that could be task hacking. So, meaning task stacking, not hacking, but task stacking, where you stack that task onto something that you already do or something that you enjoy
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it could look anywhere from, if you enjoy, let's just say,
Listening
going
to
for
music.
a walk, or
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yes, listening to music, but I was going to say how the task stack that would look like.
yeah.
If I'm going to go for a walk, maybe I put the clothes in the wash, go for the
Mm,
walk. Come back
mm.
from said walk after the laundry is done, take clothes out and put them in the dryer. Right. So the doing the laundry is built into something that you already enjoy doing, or you were already going to do.
Yeah, you just have to remember that when you come back from the walk to put it in the dry. Because I know with me, I
Yes.
put it in the wash. The kid pees the bed. I put the sheets in the wash. I go to work
Yes.
all day, go pick up the kids, come home. It's time for bed. Them sheets are still in the wash.
And you know what? So this is where the grace comes in. This is where the grace comes in, because sometimes your system can have a little hole in it, and it happens. And guess what? You just say, you know what? And I'm going to rewash these clothes, and we're going to do it
Now
again.
you gotta rewash them. They've been sitting there.
You do have to rewash them. And it's okay. It is okay. That is not the time to beat yourself up because your system had a little hole in it. So now what you can do to kind of plug the hole is to set an alarm. So in other words, when you come back, set a little alarm on your phone to remind you, take clothes out of the laundry. Sometimes my alarms look like, for example, if I'm packing, my alarm to wake me up to go on a trip, like to pack the charger, I label the alarm, pack your charger, so that as soon as I wake up and
I have a whole list. Yeah.
you know, and so you have to get creative with yourself and do what works for you. But that's just an example of what task stacking looks like. Like I have my own task stack. It's built around the gym. I love going to the gym, and I do my other executive functioning tasks after I go to the gym. So it's like gym.
That's
Well,
perfect.
the gym
I
is
mean, it's having a schedule. That's also what it is. Like
yes,
having a schedule, knowing when you're going to do something. I like the words task stacking. Is it any different than multitask? No, it's not. It's not multitasking because multitasking trying to do everything at once, and then that's
right.
what leads to burnout. And
Yes,
then ADHDers is hard to do. But task stacking is like
this is one at a
I'm gonna do
time.
this and then do that, do that.
Exactly. But
Hmm.
it's always hinged upon something you're already doing, something you always regularly do, meaning I work out 3 times a week. I'm going to be able to do these chores, whatever I'm stacking, at least
Yeah.
4 times a week. So we know for a
Yeah.
fact that's happening. The only challenge is if I ever get off my original task that I enjoy, the
Hmm.
other things are going with it, honestly.
Exactly. So, because it all goes together with the routine.
All
And
goes
you earlier you mentioned task hack by mistake, but a task hack to the specific example about laundry is just have multiple sheets. Because if
together.
you forget to put them in the dryer, now you just already have some clean ones.
Yes, definitely have the clean ones off to the side. But just if it's not sheets, it's other things that you
It's
want.
others.
You likely you're gonna have to rewash those, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Eventually they gotta get rewashed.
They gotta get rewashed.
Yeah, yeah. So if someone's listening and feels overloaded right now, whether it's ADHD or burnout, what are the first 2 to 3 practical steps they can take just this week that can help them improve?
Okay, so if it's burnout, so one, when I start to help clients review the sources of their burnout and how we can make adjustments, I usually start with daily adjustments because a lot of times we get
Mhm.
burnt out because we think self-care is going to start at the end of the week. When it's like, okay, when Saturday comes, then I'll do
Yeah,
all these things. I'm looking for incremental changes we can make on a daily basis. So
exactly.
I usually start with our boundaries first, meaning
Mm.
how are you starting your day? Are you
Mhm.
waking up checking emails? Are you waking up with your manager calling you as soon as you
Ooh,
open your
ooh.
eyes? Before you've even gone to the bathroom? Before you
Mm-mm.
shower? Are you on your phone? Those kinds of things. So I'm
Yeah,
looking for those. I'm looking, are you taking your lunch break? Are you taking these built-in breaks that are naturally kind of given to us that we can kind of bypass? Like, oh, I could just work through lunch. I usually tell clients first stop
that's
to
burnout.
you're not getting paid more money because you work through lunch. So, and
Exactly.
they don't pay you to work through lunch. So
Mm-mm.
I usually say, and then I even set boundaries at lunch. I say, don't multitask during lunch. Just eat your food. Like, don't answer emails while
It's
you're.
like you see me, what I do during lunch.
Mhm.
I
So
definitely work through lunch.
yes, and I used no, literally when I worked in corporate, I used to work through lunch too because it broke my momentum and I hated it. I hated the stopping. If I were to do it all over again, I would not be working through lunch. I would take my full lunch and I would fully eat my lunch because that is an opportunity for you to be mindful and present with yourself and checking in with yourself. So
Well, let me add that I'll like do some work emails, but I do get up from the desk, no longer doing work emails. Like today I ate my salad on my porch with the
okay,
sun. But then
see,
I went back to work email. So it was like maybe 30 minutes
okay,
of actual break of the lunch hour. So
yes, and that's a good start, right? So usually I adjust that morning routine. How are we waking up? How are
yeah.
we starting our day? Are you actually allowing yourself to not everyone can't do a slow morning. I get that that's a luxury truly for a lot of people. However,
True.
A slow
Yeah, I
morning.
wish.
I know if
If you
you're
get up early enough, you can.
and honestly, some people already work early. Some people are like, I get to
Yeah.
work at 7 o'clock, so I'm waking up at 5, and I have to take the kids to school. So I understand.
Oh man.
I am
Yeah.
not a person that's going to push a slow morning on people because everybody just can't, and I understand.
Hmm.
However, you can set the boundary of I'm not checking emails as soon as I open my eyes.
You
You can,
definitely can do that. Turn
right?
off the notifications overnight. No one should expect you to respond at 2 a.m. or 6 a.m.
And people literally do that. And so
Yeah.
things like that, having your
Mhm.
notifications start at a reasonable time.
Yep.
And if you can, start work when you get to work. And if you travel
Even
to,
if you're remote.
even if you're remote, start work when you clock in on your laptop.
Yep.
If you commute,
Yep.
how you use your commute time is important,
Hmm.
because that's an opportunity to recalibrate and set the tone for your day, set your attitude, your mood, your effort, how you affirm yourself, how you're going to show up. Use your
Hmm.
commute to your benefit. Like I said, taking your breaks, and then your evening, your sleep hygiene. How are you ending work? End work at an end time. I understand
Yeah.
people later, but actually have an end time cutoff. So if you work late like I do, I work till 8 o'clock. But at
Hmm.
8 o'clock when I close the laptop,
You done. Do you start late?
yeah, I'll start around 10 o'clock. So my day actually starts at 5, but I won't start working until about 10. So I end late, and that's okay because I switch things. Like I have lights that I dim my lights. It's
Yeah. You change the ambiance. I'm off now.
Yep, I changed the ambiance. I change everything. I put on my magnesium. It's a whole thing. But the point is,
Hey, well, that's good. You need that, especially if you work from home. For
yes,
because a lot of people are working from home these days, so we need
yes,
something that distinguishes work from okay, and now I'm at home playing.
exactly. So a true wind down is
Mhm.
necessary. So usually I start there in the practical sense that that's something you can do every day to
Mhm.
start to incorporate rest. Then once you can master that, then we can get into what more advanced rest could look like.
That's good. The key here every day,
Every
daily. You mentioned at the beginning of that, oh, I'll do my self-care routine on the weekend. I mean, it's not elaborate. I mean, whatever you do on a daily basis, it has to be something incorporated, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something quick that is allows you to do it every day.
Yes,
So that's important. And whatever it is for you, is it works for you. It's
yes.
different people. For me, I have to either run or work out most days of the week, you know. But
Mhm.
then I also have my little simple moments of just taking a deep breathing,
Yes,
grounding, engaging my senses, and just being grateful.
yeah,
Right? That's those are easy things you can incorporate every
daily.
hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, and
daily
that's
gratefulness.
being able exactly finding gratitudes. If you're able to work out most days, wonderful. Those small things, if you doing things on a daily basis, is actually what helps. And because what I liken it to, you go to sleep every day, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So
You
why
go
do
to
we
bed every
think
day.
rest is relegated to the weekend if we literally have to go to sleep every single day? We have to eat every single day. So
Hmm.
I think we have to reshape how we're looking at rest, and that helps how we prioritize it. And we're
Hmm.
already having to rest to some degree already. In other words, it's not rest, but more so body maintenance. We maintain our body with food, we maintain our body with sleep. We also have to maintain our body with rest.
Exactly. So the key here, whether you have ADHD or burnout, is rest. But definitely when you have burnout, rest is the key. And you will notice that once you get the rest, that things are better. So maybe it's not ADHD, but
Yeah.
if it is ADHD, get yourself checked out with a therapist or a psychiatrist, mental health specialist. You obviously can go to Rooted Swan Wellness, who accepts most insurances. My podcast episode is turning into a pumpkin right now because my 5-year-old just walked in.
Oh,
but
okay.
but anyway, Rooted Swan Wellness, you heard about her practice, watch from the beginning. You can follow and her at Instagram and other platforms, or is it just Instagram with Rooted Swan?
Instagram for now. I have
So
not.
just
Yeah.
that's okay. But if you like this podcast, Journey to Joy Live, definitely like, follow, share, subscribe, all the things. Thank you so much, Breanna, for coming on the podcast. Hope to see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. See you later, everyone. Thanks for listening. This has been an Enjoy Life production. If you're in a crisis, don't hesitate. Call, text, or chat 988 for immediate support. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional treatment. If you're looking for therapy or medication management through Enjoy Life, visit www.drenjoylife.com to request a consultation. I'm licensed in 13 states. I accept Aetna in Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. Be sure to grab your copy of the Enjoy Note to help you on your wellness journey. Also check out Inspire Joy for the wife, mom, boss to help you balance it all without losing yourself. Better yet, get the full Joy bundle for just $45. Remember, Journey to Joy Live is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may you continue to transform stress into joy.